Good. Well, depending on when you watch this, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, whatever. This is Big Said, once again, industry cosign. My series, My Friends Are Better Than Yours. And as always, I have great guests. I have another one this evening. Well, when we're filming this evening, but when you're watching it, whatever time it is. But Aliya Crawford, I've probably known her for about 2 months now. So no.
You're right.
you know, great entrepreneur, beautiful person, very busy. And we'll start off by people always ask me how come I don't do intros anymore because I always flub over my words and stuff like that. So I figure you're going to find out during the conversation anyway. So I'll allow Aaliyah to introduce herself and then we'll take it from there. Ms. Crawford.
Hey, Sid, thank you for inviting me to be on your show. Like you said, my name is Aliya Crawford. I am an entertainment publicist, also senior vice president at W&W Public Relations. I am a film and television producer as well, and I host a new podcast called Team AC with Aliya Crawford on YouTube, and do a number of other things too. But that's a snapshot of me professionally.
Welcome, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
No, I appreciate you for just wanting to have this conversation. And like you said, we've known each other for 2 months. It's like, we've known each other for over 20 years. But so I appreciate, working with you over the years and all that you have done for the culture and journalism and, for W&W and our clients, all the love and collaboration and support you've always shown over the years. So in support of me, and my colleagues at W&W, just our whole team. And we just appreciate you. We appreciate you. Said, want to give you your flowers now.
I appreciate that. So let's not start at the very beginning, but let's start at your beginning as far as publicity. What drew you to doing publicity, and how did you get into the field? Because like you said, you've been there a number of years. So what led you to becoming a publicist? Well, nowadays, there's so many things encompassed under that publicist title now, as opposed to 30 years ago. But how did you get into it? And
it's publicist, brand strategist, brand manager, and it encompasses marketing, everything. And publicists, they wear so many hats anyway. Just if you just use the title publicist, when push comes to shove, you wear a ton of hats with your clients. But how I got into publicity is since I was a child, was always interested in entertainment and always knew I would go into the entertainment business. And I'm talking about a young child. And so I went to school for film and media arts, went to Temple, had my degree from Temple University in film and media arts. But while I was at Temple as a student, I worked in entertainment. I had different internships at production companies and a talent agency. Did a program in LA. I also worked on, because my major was film and media, of course, I am a filmmaker, so made lots of films and worked on lots of independent films. And I also worked at the radio station, Temple University Public Radio, WRTI at the time. And I was a producer and also a reporter, on-air talent. So I was just, had my hands in a lot of different areas in the entertainment business. And then once I graduated from school, I worked in corporate, a couple different jobs, and but I was still freelancing and doing projects in entertainment and film and all of that stuff, and got an opportunity through my cousin. I got introduced to W&W at the time through. Like I said, through my cousin, got introduced to W&W. There was an opportunity for me to, get an entry-level position there as an assistant. And that's how I started in PR. I didn't go to school for PR. I had taken PR classes and was always interested in the field. I'd taken them as electives. So I knew, I had some education in PR and understanding of what it was. And because of, I guess, certain qualities that I possess, you know, in terms of communication skills and all that, I knew that I thought that I didn't think, I knew that I could do well in the field. And it just ended up, you know, being a good fit for me.
Yeah, because I don't know the exact moment we met, but I knew, like I said, I only know I know you only know you from working at W&W. Sorry, I don't know why my lips are feeling this way.
I know
Um,
sometimes.
and for those that don't know, how long has the company agency? How do you? Because some people say agency, company, brand. Like, what do you label W&W?
All of the above. It's
Yeah,
a PR agency, company, firm, whichever, you know, I think all those terms are interchangeable. But
yeah.
W&W was founded in 1991 by Patti Webster. I know you knew Patti said, and many people across our industry knew and loved Patti. But for anybody watching that didn't know Patti Webster, she was a legendary publicist and really a leader and visionary in PR and in the entertainment industry and music industry. She was, I always say, she was once in a generation type of individual, you know, and she really made an indelible mark on our industry and on me. And you know, she founded W&W, and Patti passed away, unfortunately, from cancer in 2013. So that's been, you know, that's going on 12 years now, and you know, before the age of 50. So
What I enjoyed about working with Patti was definitely the epitome of what a publicist should be. Uh,
mhm.
and of course, I had already started the industry Cosign, and what I appreciated about Patti specifically is, like, you know, she's worked with everybody. She's worked with God, Steve Hart. I mean, like, everybody. So it's like the type of clients she had, and even if the clients, and I know that with publicity, you got to match your client with whatever, you know, whether it's smaller or bigger. And I never mind that. But what I liked about Patti is, even if it was a bigger artist or a bigger client, even if they wouldn't come on the industry cosign, or that was, I'm not gonna, for lack of a better word, it was beneath what they were looking for Patti to do. She always invited me out to whatever function that comes out as an appreciation for the other things I've done. And, like, publicists don't do that, you know. Let me rephrase that. A lot don't, especially the newer ones, because back then it was definitely a different breed. And she was probably the first person that I worked with that I had a sincere appreciation for, because she didn't look at me on a level of like what gets more views or whatever. She looked at me as a person who's doing their thing, and I appreciated that. So and it's like, it was kind of unfair for me to compare other publicists to how she treated me. Whereas when I didn't get that treatment, I just didn't like them, or I just wasn't dealing with them. So I always gave her props. And of course, when she passed, it definitely broke my heart as well. And what I have to say is that y'all have continued that tradition as far as like working with me, and I always appreciate it, because, like I said, I do understand it, for being in the industry for as long as I have, that, you know, I can't get everyone on everything, and I get it. But I do appreciate the fact that even if I'm not on a client's wish list, whatever, I still get to respect. If I were to ask, I know at the very least, you'll tell me no for this reason, but you just won't ignore me like a lot of publicists do until they need you. But like I said, I just want to put that out there, because, like I said, Patti meant a lot to not just me and you, but to so many people in the industry. So
And
I
that's
do, I do appreciate what y'all have done. You specifically, because I've always dealt with you, because, like I said, you've been there from the inception, from when I was first introduced to her, and I can appreciate and thank you for continuing for, the things that she had. And I wish that there was, like, even a tenth of the publicity firms that had this same mindset. Then I'd be a happier person, because everyone knows I hate publicists.
yeah.
I can't
No,
stand
I mean, that's why I said earlier that Patti was very unique, and she was a leader, not a follower, and she was a visionary. So sometimes when you're dealing with visionary type people, their vision and the things, how they can, their perspective is a lot larger than other people's. So they can see much bigger pictures. So, and that's something that Patti, that's a mark that she left on myself and our other team members, because it is about treating people fairly, just getting back to people. And that's why I always try to get back to, if it's not a fit, or if my client or, client wants to pass on a certain opportunity, let the person know. Just that's a common courtesy, trying to get back to people. And sometimes things fall through the cracks. Of course, everybody's very busy, but just trying to, be courteous. And then, like you said, sometimes, a certain media outlet may not be a fit for a certain person, talent, or what have you. But again, you let the person know. And then, it's just that maintaining that good relationship with them by including them in events, because you're going to want a certain media outlet for another artist or another client, so you can't always, it's a two-way street to me. And I think it's really important, that you just have that common professional courtesy. And remember, the same people who may be asking you for something on this day, the next day you might be reaching out asking them for something. So just got to maintain that mutual respect and courtesy.
It's funny because after I started industry Cosign and I started working with like Vibe or The Source or whoever I worked with, all of a sudden the people that ignored me all of a sudden found my number. And I'm like, I get it, but it's like there's a way to do things, and and I know specifically for me, I get like 9,000 emails a day, and I'm not exaggerating, or maybe 8,500. So I actually had to learn, like you said, the like sometimes like I might not see your email until a month later, not because I'm ignoring, but I just didn't see it, and I think that it is important to try to stay. But I always say to people specifically, like if I responded to each email I get, sorry, I got props. If I responded to each email I got, I would never have a chance to work. So, it is what it is. But
it is what it is. And sometimes you're not going to respond. You may miss it the first time. You may miss the email the second time. But then if a person, and that's why I always tell people in business when, if I'm mentoring people or if anybody has questions, like, don't take stuff personally. Just follow up, because when you're dealing with very busy people, a lot of times they may miss. And if it's not a person that you speak to all the time or have never spoken to, it's very easy that they could miss or overlook your email. So do that follow up. You should at least follow up, I say 1 or 2 times at minimum with someone that you don't already have a relationship with or that you don't talk to regularly.
Yeah. So let's stay on that for a minute, because I couldn't be a publicist because I can't accept rejection. How do you like, and like you said, in the fact that you have so many outlets you deal with, and then you have about 198 clients, like how do you how does it, I mean, how do you do it? Like how are you able to like pitch to outlets that your client wants, and then if you're not able to, then you have to deal with a client that might not be exactly happy because they're looking to get in Rolling Stone, and you can't get them. Like how do you function? And then an hour later, you have another client with another thing. Like how do you do it? Because I couldn't do it if I had one client. So
you have to have a thick skin first and foremost. But I liken publicists to journalists, because you got to be able to deal with rejection, because it's the same thing with journalists. Even if you're at what is considered an elite media outlet, right? A magazine or a television show, even them, they get rejected as well. They reach out to certain talent and personalities or leaders, and they may want to interview, and it's a pass. So it's the same thing with us when we're pitching our talent. But I think an important part of PR and having a good strategy is making sure that you're targeting opportunities that are a good fit for your client. And that involves a lot of education too when you start working with artists, just having that communication and making sure that they understand, like, this is going to be our approach, this is the strategy, and these are the media outlets that are aligned with your brand, your demographic, et cetera, et cetera. So making sure that they understand that, and here's our targets. And that target list is going to include media outlets that we know are going to be kind of a given for that particular client. And then there's also going to be some outlets that we know might be, a higher, I guess. What am I trying to say? It's going to be it's going to be a loftier goal. It's going to be a loftier goal, So something's going on with my computer right now. Something just popped on the screen. But and that's okay. And so you have to manage your clients' expectations, and you have to be realistic. And again, like you said, it might be a brand new artist coming out, and they might be hot. Their music might be really good. They may even have a great machine behind them, and they say, they think they're going to be on the cover of Rolling Stone or New York Times. And you just, again, have to say, this is a goal. This is what we're going to build toward and work toward and create momentum and continue to increase your visibility so that you will one day obtain that goal. But you have to be honest. But then there are lots of people who aren't honest, right? They're, across the board, there are people who are publicists. There are some managers, who aren't realistic, and they are going to say, no, we're going to get this, we're going to get that. And they're going to promise, and they may promise a lot of things that they can't deliver, over promise and under deliver. I would rather over deliver, and under promise. But again, it's always about maintaining those continuous education, continuous communication. And again, like you said, if just like you said, Patti would do, if she was going to, if she had to decline your offer to interview one of our clients, she explained to you why. And it's the same thing sometimes, explaining to your client why a particular media outlet is passing or not interested at that time. And again, that's where good relationships come in, because if you can have those honest and candid relationships with the editors and with the writers and with the producers, so that you're getting real feedback that you can share with your client.
And I've been trying to get better at that. Well, specifically for people that I know, because I know that somebody had told me a couple of years ago that, like, sometimes if I respond in the email, they can show that email to the client, because that's an easier way to say no, as opposed to saying, well, he never responded, or this is that and other. So I try. I know sometimes I fail at that, but I have a better understanding where it's like, even if I just take that 2 seconds, it'd be like, I'll pass.
It's really valuable. And sometimes it's important because, it might be a lot of things going on in the world, in politics, or, and it's like, a lot of breaking news. And then that's a real reason why some media outlets, they have less space, some of like the morning shows, whereas they don't have as much space to deal with entertainment, because they're doing more world news or current events than they normally would the pandemic. Yeah, so it's like, okay, you're pitching an entertainment story, but a war just broke out, or we're dealing with a global pandemic, and so the music or the television or the movies may not be a priority at that time. So that's why that feedback is very valuable to publicists, when we get that feedback from journalists to share with the clients.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, I'll either forget or I'm not thinking about it, and then by the time I realize, I'm like, oops, just like you just sent me something. I was like, oh, blah blah blah. I was like, let me make sure, so that way, because like I said, when I have a relationship with somebody, I definitely want to make their jobs easier, even if it's for lack of a better word, even if it's a rejection or I can't, especially when I was always in the position to basically say yes or no to anything. I don't have that anymore with one of the outlets I work with. So it's like now I make sure that whenever I do say, hey, this is the reason why I want to, but contact this person because she makes these decisions. So that way, like you said, it's easier for you. So that way, if your client is like, hey, how come this, that, and the other? Well, Big said is an idiot, but he said, no, let me stop. Oh, so I get it now. Tell some of the people, because it's got to be difficult sometimes to some of the clients you do have to actually say, well, Big said is not really, messing with you this time around, because you have some clients that people can definitely be like, wow, like stargaze. Like, you can give some examples of some of the clients that you either represent or you have represented in the past, so people can know how big of a deal you are.
Thank you, said. I mean, we've been really blessed and fortunate again throughout our almost 35-year history at W&W. And again, it's a company that Patti Webster built, and she laid that foundation, and she was excellent at what she did, and she had a great reputation. And through that reputation, and we've been able to continue that legacy and just attract great clients, and and through our work, and through actually producing the results that people and our clients have been looking for. So one of our oldest clients is Patti LaBelle. She's still a client to this day, and we represent the Isley Brothers and the Otis Redding Foundation and RCA Inspiration, and a number of nonprofit organizations and brands. And throughout the years, we've had the privilege and pleasure of working with, like you said, household names like Janet Jackson and Alicia Keys and Steve Harvey, and athletes like Chris Paul and Dwight Howard, Rasheed Wallace, Jermaine Dupri, Bow Wow, so many, corporate brands from BET to Diageo and Coca-Cola and Sprite and Holly Robinson Peete and the Holly Rod Foundation, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Clayton Kershaw and Kershaw's Challenge, just tremendously successful people and brands, and Sierra, Kelly Rowland, Anthony Hamilton, Ludacris, it's amazing. It's amazing as when you honestly think about it. And I'm grateful to have been a part of all of that history and to still be a part of, the history, continue making history.
Now, with like going forward or just in general, like there's somebody watching us, like, well, maybe she can represent me. You have no chance. Let me stop.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
Like, what is it that because of course, like I said, like, the brand is definitely set in stone as far as the great reputation of what y'all do and the people you work with. Like what is it that what qualities or what characteristics would a client have to have at minimum? Well, you know what? That's kind of unfair because everybody's different, and I do get it. But I guess the question I want to ask is like, how do you determine? Because I know sometimes you might have somebody who might be this big, but you might be like, I don't know if I want those. That's like a lot to deal with. Like representing somebody who's getting arrested every 4 weeks is not a joy to have. So, like what like is there anything that at a bare minimum that's still unfair? But what is it that you look for in a client when they do come to you to ask for your services? Because I know, like I said, you're not just PR. Like you do so much branding, you just do so many things now, television work, producing, things like that. So it's like, you have so many options.
Yeah, no, I think it's all about being a good fit, right? PR is, PR at its core is like the same across the board. It's a part of marketing. It's a division of, it's under the umbrella of marketing. And then you have your paid marketing, like your advertising and all that stuff. And then you have PR, which is considered free or earned marketing, where you get placement in media equivalent to the placement you get through an advertisement, but you're paying a fraction of the cost that ad would cost to your PR team or to a PR agency or to a publicist, right? So at its core, PR is the same across the board and what publicists are trying to do and what their jobs look like. However, you have different types of PR agencies with different specialties. And, you have people that specialize in music and entertainment like we do, in sports at W&W. Then you have people who specialize in fashion. You have people that specialize in corporate or tech or nonprofit, so you have all different PR agencies. So I think that's the first thing is, you want to make sure when you're taking on new clients that it's a fit and that what they're looking for is in your wheelhouse, right? And so that's the first thing. And, not just doing it for a check, but making sure it's a fit and making sure you're going to be able to deliver on the objectives that they have. And then, it comes with kind of just meeting and talking to the potential client and making sure that it's going to be a good fit in terms of your style, because everybody's styles are different in how they do business, making sure it's going to be a good fit in terms of, are you going to be able to communicate effectively with this client and have that open and honest and communication. And also when it comes to, like, say, a music artist, everybody is not ready for PR. Sometimes people think that, oh, if I get a publicist, I'm gonna, they're gonna make me a star, it's gonna blow me up. Like, that's not how it works. You have to have some foundation first. And people don't realize how much of a foundation and how much work. They see artists and they think they just burst on the scene. Most of the times, any artist that we see that has a hit record or a hit album, they come out, they've been working at that for years. They've been working independently for years before they even got any sort of deal with a label or anything like that. They, just been building up their fan base, building their brand, making music, putting music out there. So sometimes people aren't even ready for a publicist. They need to develop their business, right? Or develop their brand before they can publicize it, because they're going to need something. They need a strong brand that the public is going to be interested in and be able to identify with. And you also want work, music, or television, or live performances. You want something that the publicity is driving people toward. The publicity that's being done, the exposure that you're getting on television shows, or that you're getting online, or that you're getting through newspapers and magazines, that exposure needs to be driving the public to something. Are they driving them to stream your music? Are they driving them to go see you on tour and go to see your shows? Are they driving them to watch or listen to your movie or your show? It has to be a goal of what the PR is doing in order for it to make sense, in my mind.
I know every client has different needs and different goals, but what is like the average? I mean, but you have clients like 70 years, so you're good on that. But what is the typical average time frame for the average client? When I say average client, of course, like outside of Patti LaBelle, she's been doing it for so long that of course she doesn't count, because she's been a client for practically the whole time the W&W has been in existence. So of course, what would be the average campaign? That's the word I'm looking for. What's the average campaign for a typical client for you?
I think at minimum 6 months, or it could be a year, or it could be something that's ongoing. Again, depending on the client. Some people or some companies and brands need ongoing PR because they always have things going on, and their PR is not necessarily, it's not necessarily surrounding a specific project, right? So, but if you are rolling out a new album or a new movie, you're going to need considerable lead time to set up all those opportunities that are going to coincide with the premiere of the movie, or the premiere of the new TV show, or premiere of a new season, or the album dropping. So you're definitely going to be setting up things that are going to happen throughout the life of that project, leading up to and throughout the life. So usually if you take an album release or a single release, you're going to want to do advanced media and you're going to got to set that up and kind of build a buzz. Then you want a lot of media coverage to be happening around the time of the release. And then you want to keep that momentum high, to create maximum consumption of that single, or maximum consumption of that album, and have the shelf life be as long as possible, right? Because the longer the shelf life, the more revenue and money is going to be generated for that particular project.
What makes a successful brand, just in general, from your point of view?
Well, I think the consumer, whatever your target consumer is, your audience, you're having confidence in the brand, right? And I think confidence is built through consistency, people knowing what they're going to get. It's like at a restaurant, people like to know that they're going to get the same level of service or the same quality of food every time they go. So I think with any brand, that consistency is going to make for success. I think that with confidence, your consumers having confidence again in the brand that they're going to deliver a certain quality or have a certain experience. I think, just keeping those now, I think just keeping that connectivity with the public helps make a strong brand. People like to hear and see the brands that they support and that they love. They like to stay in communication and contact. And I think social media obviously is a great way to do that now. And that's how, even when people don't have projects out or there's no new developments, just staying in contact with your audience and your supporters through social media is really important. So I think that connectivity, the consistency, and also the confidence that your brand, that your supporters, that your customers may have in you, or your audience may have in you.
You mentioned social media. Now, of course, social media is much bigger now than it was when we first started. There was no social media.
There was no social media, right?
We predate that. And of course, social media can definitely help because that's another avenue that you can utilize. But what happens when it's not a good thing? I guess when it comes to more specifically with maybe an artist or an actor or someone who is freely on social media and is freely about what they do, but it freely messes up what you're trying to do because you're trying to hold up an image. And of course, this is all just not anything specific because, but just in general, like how can, I'm trying to figure out how to pose the question because I know what I'm thinking, but I don't know how to express it.
How do you navigate? How do
How do you navigate the seas of social media? Well, for good and for bad, because of course, there's both on social media.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, I think social media can be a gift and a curse, depending on the circumstance or depending on the individual. And I think people have to understand and respect the power of social media. And I think also you have to understand how social media is going to affect you and affect like your mental health, affect your confidence and all of that. So some people, and that's a tough lesson that a lot of people have had to learn, right? Because it can be hard. Like once you're a public figure and you're trying to do the best you can, and everybody in your world and around you thinks you're great and you're doing a great job, and then you have people that are saying whatever to you on social media or bashing you, and you're like, wow, that can be like, a hard pill to swallow, seeing that stuff, or people talking about your family, people talking about your children or your significant other. So I think that again, it's all about, I think just like you need strong and competent professionals around you in terms of managers or partners or your publicists, you also have to have, a good social media team that's going to help you navigate that, or a good social media person and direct that, because sometimes everybody doesn't have the bandwidth or they don't have the tolerance to be dealing with that one-on-one themselves. But you have somebody have that social media presence, that strong social media presence, that's probably the best thing. And just understanding that it's a thin line between, I guess, where everything is going well from a social media perspective, and then that one thing that could really derail you in terms of that audience. And so I think, I hope I'm not rambling on, but I just think it's like you have to, and also understand that social media is not PR, and it's not a replacement for PR. What social media is another type of marketing. It's a marketing tool, and it's important. But talking about an overall brand strategy, you have to have that has to include different types of marketing, and it has to also include your PR, and those are different. And so it can be a headache sometimes, if you have a person that, goes off and they kind of like go rogue on social media, or they're putting things out that, there's supposed to be some sort of rollout plan behind it, and they're not like adhering to that, because then it's kind of like just disrupting the plan. But then you're just going to have to adapt and figure out, okay, how can we get things back on track? But yeah, I like social media, and I think social media is important, and I encourage, clients and artists and up and coming people, you definitely want to have that social media presence, because it's key. But you got to also understand the potential dangers of social media as well. It's not something that you can take lightly, because we know, it could ruin, it ruins careers. It can ruin lives, things that are exposed or put out there on social media. It could be things that are potentially dangerous to people. It's like so many different dangers that exist with social media, but there could be a lot of benefits, in to using it, and a lot of opportunities that are out there as well when it comes to social media. So you just gotta be smart, and you gotta be educated about, these different tools that we have at our disposal these days.
Definitely. Now, I want to congratulate you, because you've just you briefly mentioned that, I think, in your intro, you were just elected as vice president of the Philadelphia chapter of the Recording Academy, right? I said that correctly, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And not only that, you were the first professional. Would you like to discuss that? And
yes, for anybody that doesn't know, the Recording Academy is the Grammys. That's the organization that produces the Grammy Awards, and we are an advocacy organization. The Recording Academy advocates for music creators and those in the music community. It's made of 12 chapters, and I have been a member of the Philadelphia chapter of the Recording Academy for years. I've served as a governor on the board of that chapter. I've also served as chapter secretary. And then just recently, just last month, well, a couple of months ago, I was elected, but the results of the election were announced recently, and I am the newly elected vice president of the Philadelphia chapter of the Recording Academy. And like you said, I'm the first professional member, because the Recording Academy is made up of voting members and professional members. And your voting members are your artists, your songwriters and composers, your musicians, your producers, engineers, and people who are directly involved with creating the records. And then you have your professional members, people like myself, who are publicists, attorneys, label executives, journalists, who make up the professional membership, who work in music, but they're not directly responsible for, creating the music. And so recently, the bylaws were voted on and updated, because up until this year, professional members were only able to serve as governors and as up to the level of secretaries in chapters. But now, under the new bylaws, professional members can serve as vice presidents and presidents of chapters. So I ran for that seat, and I won, and that's it. So I'm very happy and very proud of my service within the Academy, and proud to be, the newly elected VP, and want to continue to serve, our music community in the Philadelphia chapter and as a whole.
So that means one of your clients to win their Grammy. No, let me stop. I definitely appreciate your time, and I know that we as entrepreneurs, we work so much that sometimes we don't realize we're working when we're working, but we also rest. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I also want to talk about you also have a blog that you're doing.
A new podcast.
I said blog. Why did I say blog? That's
because it's like what you just said. Like, entrepreneurs, we're always busy, always, wearing a myriad of hats and just got a lot of irons in the fire. So it's all good. It's all good.
I don't know where it came from though. I'm like, I'm
it's a
trying.
blog, I guess. But yeah, I got a brand new podcast that I launched in April. It's called Team AC with Aliya Crawford. It's on YouTube. And I just, so in addition to my life, as a publicist and SVP at W&W, now I decided to, step into this podcast world.
Yeah, me too.
Which I think is great. I think podcasting, I read something somewhere that said everybody should have a podcast. And also this like creator division, it's the largest segment of small businesses currently in our country is like the creator space. Yeah. I read that somewhere.
The one thing I do enjoy about blogs is that basically anybody can do it. And I think that there's an audience for everyone. But the other thing is that everyone's doing a podcast, so you can't really catch everyone. But I think if it's something that you enjoy doing and it's a passion, because a lot of people think that because Shannon Sharp or Joe Rogan or so many people are making this, a ridiculous amount of money, it's not built that way, and not everyone's going to make money. As a matter of fact, a very small percentage actually makes money. So people have been like, this is my third time actually doing a podcast, because we did a podcast before people even knew what podcasts were, like maybe 10 years ago.
But I think it's so many different ways that you can monetize, out there, beyond being paid, receiving, revenue from the different platforms based off of your views. You can promote your products and your business in your podcast. It's a good way to market yourself if you are an entrepreneur, as a professional, just that additional exposure that you get that could generate, new clientele, new opportunities, product placement. So you can be creative, and it could be a way that, you can generate revenue in it, aside from just being paid, by YouTube or whatever for reviews.
And what I like, and what I like about it, you don't need a big broadcast studio or the most expensive equipment. If you have access to the internet and a computer, even a phone. I mean, I did an interview earlier for, a couple people I've spoken to did it from their phone. So I do
learning because I'm brand new, but it's something that I have a passion for, and it's something I'm enjoying. I have been saying for years that I wanted to do a podcast because I had interviewed a couple of people and been asked to interview a couple of people, and then I've been interviewed a lot myself, and so I had dragged my feet with it. But then my sisters and I did a boots on the ground dance video on Easter, and it was just impromptu at my house, and my niece taped it. And this video I had posted on my social media, it got a lot of love and attention, but I was like, let me post it on YouTube. Like, let me just post it on YouTube because they got the YouTube shorts. Like, I don't know. The thing went super viral. It went super viral. It had like 500,000 views in a week. And then it had 1 million views in 2 weeks. And I went from having 20 subscribers on YouTube who were all people I knew, like family and friends or whatever, just random 20 subscribers. And I went and then the next week I had like 1,400 subscribers. And then I went to have like almost 3,000 subscribers in like over a month. So I was like, this is my sign that I need to start my podcast.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because like most people know, that one clip, that one video, whether it's 15 seconds or 15 minutes, can definitely draw such a big audience that, you're like, hey, it's a new avenue that I can use. So,
and it was a gift just placed in my lap. Like I went, like almost overnight, and now I have an audience, right? I have subscribers. So I was like, this to me is a sign. Just stop procrastinating. Like you said, it doesn't take a lot. And when I started, now I'm getting more equipment, because my niece tells me all the time I need to step my game up with my look, my visuals. So I'm getting the equipment I need slowly but surely. But when I first started, I think, I was just using my laptop and my phone and, now I'm getting different things here and there so that I can be more professional. But
I'm guilty of that. I actually have a mixing board, a mic, and I still haven't set it up. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but
I know I have a mic too that I have never used yet because I bought a new webcam and it has a built-in mic. So I got to test and kind of see what the difference is if I should use other mic or just keep using like the webcam mic.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Trust me, I get it, and it's like, hey, let's just do it, and see, the worst that can happen is nothing.
Right. And again, as long as it's something that I think if you're being authentic about it, something that you enjoy, you have a passion for it, again, it's not harming anybody, and that's, I'm big on just authenticity. Like, don't do stuff just to be doing it. Just don't do it because other people are doing it. Exactly. Do it because it resonates with you, and you see you have a vision or you have a purpose or you enjoy it. And I think that's the thing too, like, because you'll be successful with anything is if you have that vision.
And that's why I was telling people, I'm like, I've been interviewing celebrities and executives for like years, so that doesn't impress me because like that's just a regular day for me. But I'm like, I got some dope people I know that does dope things, so my friends are better than yours, so why not? And I get an enjoyment out of it because, my audience gets to meet new people, and then my friends get to express who they are and what they do to other people. And I've had people that's like have made contacts because of that. So like that's what I'm getting out of it, as opposed to trying to get 3 million views. I mean, if that happens, I'd be happy, but if I get 300 views from 300 people that honestly want to be a publicist and they see what you're doing and it helps them, job completed, so.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's a tool, it's education.
Yeah.
And people, you can never have enough of real education, and quality education and quality voices. And also people that have been doing X, Y, and Z, who have actually been putting in the work, doing the work, and they have a lot of valuable insights and wisdom to share, right? So like you said, you're doing a great thing, and you never know how it's going to connect people together. You never know how it's going to create an opportunity for you, because we come from an era where a lot of, particularly in entertainment, where the executives and everything stayed behind the scenes. But now, because of social media, I think largely, and just people's perspectives have changed, it is important for business leaders to get out there, because they're, now they're expected to really kind of be public facing. And people want to see who are behind these different companies and who are behind these businesses. So I think that's an important part of it too. And now we see, just not in entertainment, but executives and everything across the board, the public is interested in hearing these people's stories. They're interested in these different voices out here,
especially if they can relate on a level that they want to, like, be involved or do what the person does. And it's like, oh, okay, well, if this person did it, then I can do it. And I think that's an important thing, especially people of color,
Right.
And then, okay, that's another thing I forgot to mention earlier, because you have a minority female-owned business, so that's one of the good things. And like I said, I want to help promote things of that nature because, I know it helps,
For sure.
But I think I've taken up enough of your time, and I do appreciate all the things that you've involved me with over the years, and good luck with any and everything that's upcoming. And if there's any way anybody can get in touch with you via social media or whatever.
Yeah. And thank you again, thank you for inviting me to be on your show and sharing your platform with me. Thank you for all the love and support that you have given to W&W and our clients over the years through the industry Cosign and through the various media outlets that you have worked with. And just, again, always supporting and lending us your sweat equity, But as far as keeping up with me, people can connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram is Aliya Crawford _, ALIYACRAWFORD _. They can connect with W&W on Instagram at W&W Public Relations. That's on Instagram. You can also visit our website, w-wpr.com. And also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Team AC with Aliya Crawford. Please subscribe, check out some of the interviews there, like and share.
Definitely. Once again, thank you everyone who's stayed as long as we have. As I always say, first, thank you, Aliya, for being involved. And as I always say at the end of my programs, my friends are better than yours. And if you think that I'm wrong, show me your friends, and either they are already my friends or I'll just prove you wrong. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, good night, good day, good afternoon, however you're enjoying this, and check out Aliya as well. So,
thank you, Sid. I appreciate you.
No problem. Now I just gotta find the end.